Welcome to this new Tech Captains episode. Thank you to everyone following us and the regulars now. So, as usual, I'm joined today with Gareth, CTO at Healthily. Hi, Gareth.
Hi, guys. Hi, everyone. Hi, Amen.
And today we are lucky to speak with Amen Reghimi. Hi, Amen.
Hi, Ron. Hi, Gareth. Hello, everyone.
Good. And so just to give a quick intro, so you currently CTO at Perx Technologies, and looking through your LinkedIn, it was quite impressive. So you're part of the Harvard Business Review as an advisory council member. You speak 3 languages fluently. You've lived in several countries, in Singapore. Tell us more about your life journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me again, Ron. So, as you said, I started my career a decade ago as an intern, and I lived in multiple countries. So I started in Paris, and then at least my career in Paris, then moved to the US, where I lived in Chicago, North Carolina, Miami, before moving to Singapore a few months ago. And I started more on the development side, and then moved to pre-sales, sales, implementation, then back to product management, and now as a CTO. And I will tell a little bit more about the background and later.
No, so that's good. And you're from Tunisia originally, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm both Tunisian and French. So I have 2 citizenship. My wife is Italian and my daughter is American.
Wow, that's a mixture. Yeah.
Exactly. When we are at the airport traveling, we will always come with 3 passports, and the custom guys are you sure you are a family? Yes.
No, that's funny. And so what made you decide to move to Singapore? I mean, from North Africa to France, I understand because many people speak French in North Africa, but then the US, I guess, gave you a more international career, and now suddenly the shift to Asia. Like, what happened, and how do you like it?
So, yeah, the decision to move to Singapore was 2017. We were doing a trip in Asia, and this is where we spent 1 week in Singapore, and we fell in love with the city. And after some discussion with some people over here and looking around, we found it has to become the Silicon Valley of Southeast Asia. And we wanted to move here. And fun fact, 2019, I got like my visa to come to Singapore at 2020 to come to Singapore. I booked my tickets, etc. And then COVID happened. So we have sold all of our furnitures, etc., etc., and then we had to pause on that. And once the COVID has been relaxed, restrictions have been relaxed here in Singapore, we said it's the right time to move here. Why Singapore? Because we love the city. It's a very beautiful city, safe, and it's a multinational. But we wanted to have an experience in Asia. And Singapore was like the best city to be in. So I had an experience in Africa, probably North Africa, Europe, Americas or North America. And for our career, but also for our life, it was good for us to see the Asian life. And that's where our choice was for Singapore. And we have been here now for almost 8 months, and we love it. We don't regret it.
And what's the tech scene like in Singapore? What's it like for tech companies?
Actually, I was surprised when we joined here. The tech, it's moving a lot, and there are a lot of tech companies over here. Actually, Singapore is becoming a tech hub, and a lot of big focus on IP, so in intellectual property in the SaaS world. So there is a lot of opportunities, whether in development or product management. You will see that there is a big focus on financial services. So most of the tech companies or the successful tech companies here are in the financial services or services related to the financial services or insurance. But right now we see more and more other companies and tech companies coming. So you can see TikTok headquarters are here. Actually, the CEO of TikTok is a neighbor, and you will see more and more other tech companies coming over here.
That's interesting. And so, what? So you say financial companies, but what is Perx Technologies doing? It's more marketing, right?
Actually, it's not really marketing. So Perx Technologies, I would call it as the world's first loyalty and engagement platform. What we do is loyalty and engagement, and which generally is used by marketing. But what we do is we combine the power, let me call it, of science with the underpin of gamification. So what we do is we help companies grow. So by targeting their customers, employees, SMEs, when they are most likely to engage. And the way how we do it is we provide a platform that can enable businesses. So it can be FSI, so financial services or insurance or others. We provide them with a platform that can deliver personalized and engaging experiences to their customers. And with a goal to increase their customers' loyalty, so they can increase the loyalty, they can drive revenue growth, they can retain their customers or engage them. So one also how we do it is we leverage some cutting edge technologies. We have some AI, behavioral science, gamification, with the goal to help these businesses to stay ahead of the curve and achieve results. And actually, we have a focus on financial services, but right now we are moving more also to retail, hospitalities, and others, and telco. So in Singapore, for example, we have the number one telco here called StarHub as one of our customers. Still, most of our customers are banks, but we are getting right now into the retails, travels, and so on.
I see. And then what's your tech stack then?
Yeah, so as a startup, so Perx started, is a 7-year-old company, and our stack will be on mainly three things. So for the backend, we are using Ruby on Rails. For those who are not familiar with Ruby on Rails, this is a web application framework that is used to build the backend of our application. It's similar to Java, .NET, C#, or whatever you are using, and it is written in the Ruby programming language. And which I like about Ruby, that it provides a set of conventions and tools that can help developers build web application very quickly and easily. So it's very scalable. And when you are a startup limited in time and resources and you want to go fast, Ruby on Rails is really a very good framework because you can scale faster, you can go faster in the development, and there are a lot of libraries. For the front end, we use React, and React is very popular. So for those who are not familiar with React, it's a JavaScript library that is used to build front end. And what I like about React, so there were a lot of discussion whether we should go React or HTML5 or Angular, etc. We decided to use React because it helps the developers to create the usable UI component and build the interface, the UI in a way that is interactive. And I used also React in my previous company. It's very popular choice when you want to build a single pages application and very known for the performance and the flexibility. So, and the community is very large all over the world. Then in terms of infrastructure, we are on AWS. Actually, we were on Google and we transitioned to AWS. For those who probably are not familiar when I say...
Yeah, I was going to ask, why did you move?
Yeah, I think that was a big decision. Many reasons for that. One of the main reasons is we found it easier for developers to build, deploy, and manage our application because in terms of hosting, it was easier. In terms of location, where you have AWS. So right now we have customers in Southeast Asia, but we are going to the Middle East and Europe. So there are multiple locations. And we can manage in terms of the infrastructure. It's really scalable, very secure, and from whether the database, the storage, and security. But that wasn't like what moved the needle. What moved the needle were two things: the cost, because AWS offered incentives to migrate from Google, and then the AI, the machine learning ready solutions. So AWS, they have very good machine learning ready to use solutions, as well as for the analytics piece. And as a solution, data is key for us to, as we are engaging with millions of customers today. So just in December, we have almost 1 billion API calls. Wow. And more than 12 million of MAU, which was really very high. And AWS was very good in scaling the architecture and making sure that the the uptime still good, and they have a very good team.
So do you use SageMaker then on AWS?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And we are starting as we work with a lot of banks, and so as you know, security is very high. So the AWS helps us to keep high security, but we have some fraud detection tools that are already pre-embedded, so we don't really need to rebuild the fraud, solution for fraud detection, or even in terms of analytics, etc. It's all embedded in one place. We want to make it really easier.
Are you talking about GuardDuty?
QuickSight.
QuickSight.
That's what we are using.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that. Okay.
Actually, you will see it's new. It's similar to a Tableau or Power BI, probably still in the early stages, but as it is integrated already to the AWS framework, you can have high level of analytics based on real-time data, benchmarking, and you can leverage the API from AWS for machine learning, from SageMaker for the ML piece easier.
Okay. And can I just ask a question? You mentioned Rails. So I had an experience with Rails, oh my God, over 10 years ago now, I think. And, Active Record, then there were certainly there were performance issues with it. And we ended up having to write a lot of queries by hand. I think some things like the joins and things were not very optimal at all. How have you found that? Because it sounds like you're scaling quite rapidly. Has that been a challenge for you?
So actually, that was one of the main topics that I discussed with the team when I joined Perx almost 8 months ago, which was the performance. The performance was one of the main issues as the platform was growing and as we are getting more and more customers. And what we had to do is there are basically 6 or 7 actions that we have done. First of all, we had to identify the bottlenecks in our performance. So what's the root cause of these performance issues? And we use it multiple Rails or tools available, such as Rails built-in profilers and New Relic for that. And then, as we said, that we started optimizing our database queries, because slow database query, what you can have seen, was a major cause of the performance. So what we use it Active Record to optimize our queries, and then. If I remember well, we use it eager loading to reduce the number of database calls by utilizing indices, etc. And then we worked on optimizing the asset loading. So the large asset files, such as images, etc., videos, as we can have that in our platform. We use it as more a CDN. CDN, which is a content delivery network to distribute those asset files and compress them through the platform. Then AWS helped us in terms of when we use it, AWS in terms of the caching and the server configuration. And the last thing we used it to have was making sure that we use the latest version of Ruby on Rails, because we found that when you use an older version, it wasn't very helpful, especially newer version would include performance improvement and so on. And monitoring. Monitoring was one of the main actions that we had to put. So we had to have our senior developers doing high monitoring and our DevOps. So we had to have a dedicated DevOps person for some time to use monitoring. And then we embedded Sentry. I'm not sure if you are familiar with the tool as Sentry, so that we could have the analysis on our code as soon as we deploy that in GitHub. So we get that. And so that helped us, just to share with you, to really remove or reduce at least the performance issues. Then the last thing that we did was in terms of QA, because it's good when you develop, but our application is 7 years old. And we had to put, recently we deployed QA automation, and including performance tests, etc. And we were doing multiple testing, so that can help us on that. So it was a long project, I would call it, a few months project looking to the infrastructure, looking to the database query, looking to improving the code, and also the scalability of the whole architecture.
And in terms of moving from one cloud to another, in this case, Google to Amazon, because obviously when you go to the cloud services, it's not like getting your GuardDuty server. It's really you start getting embedded and you start getting addicted to all the easy tools and features they give. So how did you get out of that you were using at Google?
That was actually a good thing. The one of the main reason before moving is and before starting the migration process, we have identified the requirement of our new architecture on AWS. So which AWS services are needed and how they can be configured, etc. And then started preparing the application. However, the good thing is that we were using Google, but we were using a lot of other services that are not on Google Cloud. And this was one of the main reasons why we decided also outside the cost, obviously, to move to AWS, because we moved from an architecture where we have our solution hosted in Google and a bunch of other solution for analytics, for machine learning, for multiple other stuff to an all-in-one solution. And that's when we were doing an analysis between between AWS and Microsoft Azure. And AWS has the check on all the solutions that we needed and all-in-one. And obviously, again, cut over to, we had a lot of testing and validation, and we had to run in parallel at some point. And even in terms of data, for example, for analytics and so on, we had to keep it moving in parallel for some time before importing everything in AWS and setting a replication process between the two environments.
I see. No, that's interesting. And just to move to something a bit different, like we started a small tradition in the podcast to ask the guest to introduce a book they recommend to everyone listening, something you found interesting. You can have maybe a novel, but ideally something tech related. And in your case, I think you mentioned a book by Marty Kagan. Can you tell us more? Like, which one is it and why this one?
Absolutely. Actually, Empowered. This book, probably I read it 3 times, and everyone who joins my team in the product, I ask them to read it. It's like the Bible, I would call it, of product manager. Actually, it's a 2 series. You have the first one called Inspired, and the second one called Empowered. And it's called, I love how Marty Kagan and his team call this. They call it Empowered Ordinary People, Extraordinary Products. Actually, it's a book that focuses on the factors that contribute to the success of the top tech product companies like Amazon, Apple, Google, and Tesla. Actually, Tesla is a tech company, what you will see in the book. You will see that the book argues that the real advantage of these top tech companies is not just the talent they attract, but how they enable their people to work together to solve problems and create innovative product. And when you read it multiple times, you will see that the authors will emphasize the importance for us as leaders to create an environment where the greatness of everyone can emerge. As of for like, I'm not sure if you are familiar with the coach Bill Campbell. He has like this philosophy of you need to emphasize or create an environment where everyone can be great. And the book will describe what it means to be an empowered product team and how it differs from the features team. And this is actually when I was in my previous company leading the product team, historically, we were at some point a features teams. We wanted to build technology, but the technology was, hey, I need this button. I need this feature. This customer wants this feature. Our sales people coming to you, hey, Amen, without this button, we will lose a 1 million deal. So your team starts really being a feature, and you organize your team around features, etc., and they are not empowered. While the way how it is here is mainly have an empowered product team. So it will if you are a product manager or a product developer, you will see that this book provides guidance on recruiting, coaching team members to reach their potential. And if you do that, you will have the ability to create an inspiring product vision and strategy with the execution, because a product vision without execution is useless. So you will have an empowering team with objectives instead of just building features. So I would recommend everyone to read it. It provides really valuable insights for leader in product management, product design, and engineering who wants to create this environment that fosters the innovation. I would say at the end of the day to create an extraordinary product. But that's how, as engineers,
that's what we're all
we
trying
want to
do, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had a couple of questions then about product. So, I mean, first of all, one of the things I've noticed in the last year is there's been this new sort of CPTO title I've seen around. And I'm just wondering what you think, because I think that's your title, right, where you are at the moment. So do you think is that something new, or is it just a reflection of the reality? Because the way I've seen it is it's like if you're a CTO at a early stage business or a founding CTO, you are very much involved with the product. So it seems to me this is just a reflection of that reality, that eventually the company's going to get to a point where it'll hire a dedicated CPO, or do you see it as something different?
You got it, Gareth. I think it's a reflection of all the reality. So historically, even in my previous company, when we were at an earlier stage, even when we were like 1,000 people, we had a CTO, but this CTO was owning the product and the engineering. So actually, he was a CPTO.
Yeah.
It just wasn't reflecting that. And it wasn't reflecting that because tech companies was more thinking about chief technology officer who will oversee this. The title of CPTO, which is a chief product and technology officer, will emphasize that product is as important as the technology. What it gives me today or other CPTO is that you have easier way to execute the company strategy, because at some point when you are growing, you're a startup or a scale up, or where you are growing, there should be no conflict between product management and product development or R&D, which I can tell you at my before, and I have seen this by experience, when the companies become bigger, then it become a lot of conflict between CPOs and CTOs. And sometimes this will create technical debt, will create a lot of challenges within the team. As fact, if you put one person who aims to execute that, it will make things easier. And for example, on my side today, my main goal today is, as a chief product and technology officer, is aligning the company's technology and product strategy with the business objective. Full stop. That's what we need to do. And so you have, by getting in your team product managers, engineering, design, security, you can bring everyone under this umbrella. And I would say at some point, however, as the company will grow, will have more products, whether the company will grow organically or inorganically, there will be a need to separate this role by a chief product officer, someone who will focus on the product management, and someone who will focus on the tech side. So
so when I was sort of researching you and your company and everything, and I came across a term I'd never seen before, which is phygital. Have you seen the term phygital?
With F?
PHYGITL. Basically, it means that it's an experience, that it's a digital physical experience. So the example being a QR code that enables the digital to cross into the physical, right? A seamless movement between channels. And so I was thinking again with what you do in your background, what are your thoughts around that as an idea? I mean, it seems like that's the direction we're heading with augmented reality, all this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, so that's very interesting what you say. So this also started before, when we were referring to digital twins, where you have like this combination, or when we started like probably a decade ago talking a lot about IoT or Internet of Things, and people started about talking then about digital twins. So how can you create a digital representation of a physical solution or a physical object. And then now, as we are moving, the term phygital is, as you said, it's a combination of physical and digital, but we see it. What happened last year with the talk about the metaverse. There is this intersection between the physical and digital worlds. There is no doubt that we are going there. And the digital technology right now must be used to enhance or augment every physical experience or object we are having. And the physical object will be used to interact with the digital experience. So I was looking to an example recently where if you have an interactive museum that can use the digital technology to provide you information about the physical exhibit, for example, or if you have a smart home device that can allow you to control your physical appliance or system through that. In our world where Perx Technologies we are right now, what we do is we engage customers, patients, citizens, etc., and we need to make sure to give them a better experience. So in our product, it can be sort of you scan a QR code and then you can get like access to the metaverse, to that physical experience, or you enter a place where you have multiple of physical objects and then you can have a digital representation of that. We launched it recently, it was last August, that it was like Tour de France, which is the cycling tour here in Singapore. And we had one of our customers in the in insurance world. They wanted to engage the people around our app. So what they did is they created multiple physical checkpoint locations, and then they gamified that experience. The gamification happened in the digital world, which is in the app, but the activities happened in the physical world.
Happened outside. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was like an incredible experience. Actually, I was wowed by that. And even as a product manager, I mean, with the hat of the product manager, when we built that, we weren't looking to get such success of that. And it's probably can use some of the buzzwords as metaverse, digital twins, whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, is bringing the digital and physical worlds together.
Good. And can I ask you? I mean, for finishing this podcast, I'd like to know: do you have any fun fact or horror story that happened in your career?
Okay, hopefully future hiring managers will not listen to this. But actually, one fun fact, and I will always remember this, is when I was a fresh intern, when I started my career, I told you earlier, I started my career so I have an engineering degree in computer science. I was in Paris when I got my degree, and I was looking for an internship. And this is where then after that internship, I stayed in the company for almost 10 years. But I started as a developer. And my first big project was building a middleware to integrate the product of my previous company with Oracle, so an ERP for a customer. The problem, I didn't know what a web service was or an ERP. They didn't taught that at school. It was computer science, developing in C# and Java, and that's all. And that was like my first real enterprise experience. So what happened for me, it was like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. And I'm very bad in Rubik's Cube until now. So I wasn't to give up. So I dove headfirst into research, training, etc., until I have built a product. The good outcome is that the product I have built myself, I have developed, worked for years without bugs, I would say, or so I thought. But years later, when I finally took a peek at the code and the company that customer wants to migrate, I was shocked to find that even if it was in production for many years, it was still named test_first project, WS.
That's really
test
funny.
only. So 4 years later, 4 years in production, that was like the name of the whole project, and it was running in production. So that was the funny thing. And then, actually, I forgot to change the name after all of those years. But that experience taught me an important lesson that don't take yourself too seriously, no matter how skilled you are. There is always like a room of improvement, and mistakes can happen, right? And another thing that I thought, because when I was doing that project, I was really didn't know anything about that business. I have decided to shift my focus to understanding the business sides of things, not only development, because I have found that I have spent so many hours and useless researches trying to understand how to code, but I haven't worked at that time to understand what problem are we solving. And, with some looking back to that, I thought like I could have used some solution like Workato or MuleSoft, etc., that was doing that instead of building it myself. So that's how, after all, I could solve a tech problem by folding. So now I decided then to move more on the business side of the thing. So this is where I move it to a project manager, then pre-sales. So I try to understand what's the business, what problems are we solving. And I spent like after that 4 years in implementation and selling and positioning the product, and then move it back to product management and product development.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, it was very interesting. I especially appreciated personally the insights about the transition Google AWS. I didn't expect that. No, so that was very interesting. Thank you so much, Amen, for your time today. And for anyone listening, Gareth and I will be back in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Amen. See everybody in 2 weeks.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.